I used to live in this old house at the edge of town, one of those places where everything creaks, and the air feels a little too thick. It wasn't a big house, but it had that quiet, unsettling vibe to it. I never really paid much attention to it until something started happening with my closet. It began with the door opening. At first, I thought I was just forgetting to shut it properly, but it kept happening. Every night, no matter how tightly I closed it, the door would be wide open by morning. At first, I tried to ignore it, but the sound of the door creaking open in the middle of the night started to gnaw at me. I thought maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe it was just old wood, and time taking its toll on the door. But one night, I decided to test it. I closed the door, double-checked the lock, and even pulled a chair up against it just to be sure. I was going to prove to myself that it was just a fluke. But by morning, the chair was moved aside, and the door was wide open. I stared at it for a while, trying to come up with an explanation, but nothing made sense. I hadn't moved the chair, and the door had been locked from the inside. That's when I started thinking it wasn't just an old house thing. Something wasn't right. I got a lock, a sturdy one, the kind you'd use to secure a bike, and I locked the closet door from the inside. I figured that if there was something in there, it wouldn't be able to get out. The next morning, I woke up and went straight to the closet. Sure enough, the door was open. But the lock, the one I had locked from the inside the night before, was lying on the floor. On the inside of the closet. I froze. How? How did that happen? I couldn't explain it. The lock shouldn't have come off, let alone end up inside the closet. I thought I must be losing my mind, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. There was no way the door just opened on its own, not after I'd taken every precaution. So I did what any sensible person would do. I locked it again. But this time, I didn't just lock it from the inside. I also moved a heavy dresser in front of it. No way anything could open that door now. That night, I went to bed with a strange sense of dread hanging over me. I couldn't sleep. Every time I heard a creak or a rustle, my heart would skip a beat. The house was quiet, but too quiet. I kept thinking I heard something, like a whisper coming from behind the closet door. I told myself it was just my imagination, but the anxiety gnawed at me. At some point, I must have drifted off, but I woke up suddenly in the middle of the night, with my heart racing. I could feel the weight of the silence pressing down on me. I sat up in bed and stared toward the closet, my eyes wide and unblinking. The dresser, the one I had pushed in front of the closet door, was no longer in place. It was moved aside, just enough to let the door swing open. And the lock, the one I had used, was on the floor, inside the closet, just like the last time. I got up, my legs shaking, and I moved toward the door. The room felt suffocating, and I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. As I stood there, staring at the door, I felt a coldness creeping up my spine, as if something was watching me from within. I tried to rationalize it, but the fear was overwhelming. I grabbed the lock again, my hands trembling, and I locked the door, this time taking the key with me. I wasn't going to let that thing get out. But even as I locked it, I felt this sense of dread, like it was mocking me, knowing I was futilely trying to keep it trapped. I went to bed that night, but sleep was impossible. Every sound, every shift in the house made me jump. And then, just as I thought I might be going insane, I heard it. The unmistakable sound of the lock shifting. I couldn't breathe. I stayed as still as possible, straining to hear more. The closet door creaked, just like it always did, and then nothing. Total silence. My heart raced. I didn't dare move. I was too afraid to look. And then finally the door opened. Just slightly. I swear I saw something move inside, like a shadow flickering across the edge of the door. It felt like it was waiting for me to come closer, but I couldn't. I couldn't do it. The next day, I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't stay in that house. I packed up my things, leaving everything behind. I didn't tell anyone why I was leaving, but I know I wasn't going to stay another night in that room, not with the closet still sitting there just waiting. I left as fast as I could, but even as I walked out the door, I felt like something was following me, something that had been waiting for me to leave. I didn't sleep that night, and I didn't feel safe for weeks. I moved into a new place, hoping that the nightmares would stop, that the fear would finally fade. But it didn't. The memory of that closet haunted me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it, that door swinging open, the lock on the floor. I couldn't explain it. It didn't make sense. But what scared me the most was that I didn't feel like I'd escaped. Like whatever was in that closet had followed me, still waiting, still watching, just biding its time. I'm still not sure what happened that night, and I don't want to know. I don't want to think about it. But every now and then, when I'm alone, I can't shake the feeling that something is watching me, waiting for me to do something wrong. I sometimes think about that house, and the feeling that something was alive inside that closet. I've never been able to shake the feeling that whatever it was connected to me in some way, like it knew me, knew my fears. And I'm terrified that one day it might come back. To this day, I still check my closet before I go to sleep. I know it sounds crazy, but I can't help it. I feel like whatever was in that house, whatever was behind that door, is still out there. Maybe it's just a lingering memory, but every time I see a closet, I feel that cold shiver crawl up my spine. I know it sounds insane, but I swear that something was inside that closet, something that was never meant to be there. And I can't escape it. Not ever.